Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and in this video we're going to be doing an overview and slight guide on floors 51 through 100 in Palace of the Dead, which were just added in patch 3.45. Keep in mind we're not going to be discussing the basics of Palace of the Dead that were present in floors 1 to 50, since you would have already needed to have gone through those floors in order to get to this point. Once you have completed floor 50 and completed the quest The House That Death Built, which you've definitely completed by now, go to the Wood Whaler Expeditionary where you usually enter Palace of the Dead, and he should have a new quest for you to unlock the new floors. Once you've unlocked floor 51 and up, you can create a new save file at either floor 1 or floor 51, so no, you don't need to start from a level 1 save all over again if you don't want to. You also still only need level 17 to unlock floors 51 plus, but you still need that floor 50 kill to actually get to this point. Keep in mind that from floors 51 up, you will also be level 60 inside of Palace of the Dead the entire time. The best part about this is you can still enter as a lower level job and use these new floors to level. In fact, floors 51 through 90 give experience points equal to that of floors 41 to 50 from the previous set, making it so that if your ether pool arm and armor are high, it's actually quite good for leveling, debatably better than floors 1 through 10. Speaking of ether pool arm and armor, for floor 51 plus, you must be at least plus 13 on both of them in order to even enter 51 to 60. But personally, I recommend being at least 30-30-ish before going in. While we're on the topic of Etherpool stuff, let's talk about the changes to the Etherpool arm and armor in this patch. First up, the new cap for Etherpool gear has gone up from 30-30 to 99.99. There is also a new weapon to purchase using your Etherpool arm and armor, an item level 255 Kinna weapon. Now, in order to obtain this weapon, you must take both the item level 235 Bajali weapon and sacrifice plus 60 on your Etherpool stats when you talk to Una Couture. Now keep in mind that upon obtaining the I-255 weapon, you will lose the I-235 weapon and your total Etherpool stats will each be reduced by 60. Just to be clear, if you do not have a Bajali weapon and you are trying this, you will first need to obtain one before you can get your Kinna weapon. That means you'll need to give plus 30 for the Bajali weapon, and then another plus 60 for the Kinna weapon, a total of plus 90. Now that we've gotten some of the basic changes out of the way, let's actually talk about floors 51 to 100. Now keep in mind, I am going to keep this strictly to 51 to 100. I'll have minor details about 101 plus at the end of the video. Now, as mentioned before, you will be level 60 in here the entire time from floor 51 all the way up to 200, so you don't have to worry about leveling inside of Palace of the Dead anymore. In terms of the monsters you'll encounter and the traps you'll encounter, they're pretty much all the same or some slightly newer ones, but the big thing is that as you get to about floor 71 plus, you'll start noticing mobs that just shoot AoEs at you even if they're not aggro to you. This really gets annoying higher up, and these attacks hit especially hard, so just be on the lookout for those monster types. There's also two new Pomanders on these higher floors. The Pomander of Raising, which will give your group a passive effect until either a player dies or you complete a set of 10 floors and it wears off. This will automatically resurrect a player who dies in the same spot where they died. It's basically they'll just get back up as if they had the raise status. And remember, this is automatic. There's no confirmation window for it. It just resurrects you where you died with weakness. So if you died in the middle of the room full of enemies, let's just say that they're going to be eating dinner a second time very soon. The other Pomander, and this one is especially important, is the Pomander of Resolution, and this transforms players into a Karibu. Now the Karibu's only ability is Heavenly Wrath, which is a ground targeted ability that stuns and deals damage to anything in its AoE. More importantly, the Karibu form's attack also deals extreme bonus damage to dark and undead creatures within Palace of the Dead. Some enemy types this includes are dark dragons, mummies, corpses, wraiths, undead goobos, and anything that looks like it might have been dead at some point and was brought back to life. And finally, and this is especially important for floor 100, we'll cover that a little bit later, but this ability also has an additional effect where it will automatically clear corpses on the ground if you hit them with the attack after a monster is killed. It's recommended to save resolution Pomanders from floors 91 to 100 to help with the floor 100 boss for this reason. We'll explain that in more detail when we talk about floor 100. Inside these new floors, there's also new accursed hordes. Specifically for floors 51 to 100, we have iron trimmed sacks now. This is a higher tier of the accursed horde, and it has better drop rates on rare materials, as well as a bunch of new rewards that you might obtain. Now, I did mention that it's mostly the same enemy types. There are some new ones, especially some more common dinosaurs and whatnot, but realistically, there's nothing of specific note like there was with the hornets and the slimes in the first 50 floors. Realistically, when you're low on Etherpool stats, everything in here is a massive threat and hits really hard. So until you get your Etherpool arm and armor up a little bit, just treat every mob with a little bit of caution. Now we're going to talk about all of the floor bosses. There's a boss on floor 60, 70, 80, 90, and of course 100. The floor 60 boss is the Black Rider. It's basically a mini Odin clone, or you can look at the first boss of Amdapor hard mode. It has a cleave attack, so make sure not everyone's stacked up, and it also shoots AoE puddles that stick around for a little bit at random targets. The big attack that he has is a line knockback AoE, which he'll also summon like 5 AoE bubbles around the arena that he's going to try to knock you into with this attack. You basically just want to make sure that when this attack knocks you back, it doesn't knock you back into one of the few AoEs around the outside of the room. As long as you can survive these hits, this isn't going to cause you many problems, so just move on after you're done here. The floor 70 boss is Yakwaru. Now, just like the last boss, also has a strong cleave, so make sure that you do not face it towards the entire group, and also shoots AoEs at people. The big mechanic for this boss is the Douse Attack, which is a point-blank AoE that casts pretty fast, so you just make sure you don't get hit by it. When Douse finishes going out, it will leave behind a puddle that grants an extremely powerful haste buff to the boss. You're going to want to run far away from the puddle when you see him casting Douse, that way he doesn't get to use any abilities while he's inside of it. Makes his AoEs much harder to dodge and makes his attacks come out way faster. One thing that he does to try and make it so you can't react to it after Douse comes out is that he'll use an ability that puts heavy on the target, just makes it harder to run away from the puddle. Again, move away preemptively if you have aggro. Don't wait till after you see the puddle on the ground. And that's really it for the whole fight, just keep him out of the puddles and he's a pretty easy boss. The floor 80 boss is Gudana, a giant behemoth. For cleaves, instead of having a regular cleave, he actually has the Thunderbolt, which is a dodgeable cleave, making it so the damage you take will probably be a bit lower on this fight. He'll also target players with Charybdis tornadoes. Now, once these spawn, first of all, don't stand in them, they deal damage over time, but they also occasionally pulse for AoE damage just outside of their AoE range, so you just want to create some distance from them and make sure you don't get hit by those extra AoEs. Occasionally, you'll see him sort of sprinting towards one of the sides of the room before targeting a player with Trounce. All this is a line AoE, so just follow him as he's running across the room and you shouldn't have any problems. Now for his last 10% of his HP, he'll start trying to cast Ecliptic Meteor. It has a very long cast time and he only has 10% of his health left, so as long as people are alive, you shouldn't have many issues here. If you're really concerned about DPS, save your limit break for this part if you're in there with a group of 4. If you don't manage to kill it before Ecliptic Meteor goes off, it's not automatically lethal unless you're at low Ether Pool armor value. Then it will probably kill people. The floor 90 boss is the Godmother, which is a mom bomb for those of you who are wondering. Now she uses a lot of targeted AoEs and a fairly powerful cleave. Even though the cleave itself hurts, because she stops to cast sap so often, you get plenty of breaks between her auto attacks in order to heal up. Now throughout the fight, she's going to summon 3 types of bombs. The first type are lava bombs, which are these tiny bombs that just explode in an AoE around them. Ignore them, stay out of their AoEs, they'll die once they explode once. The gray bombs channel a long cast time called Burst that hits in an AoE for the entire room. You're just going to want to kill them fast when they spawn. The third type of bomb is a Giddy bomb, and those cast Hypothermal Combustion. Now this skill has a special property in that it will stun the Godmother's room-wide AoE that she is charging and deal a bit of damage to her. Now the Giddy bomb can be knocked around with auto attacks and abilities. You're just going to want to make sure that it's positioned next to the Godmother so that she's within the AoE range when it explodes. Now keep in mind, while it's intended for you to use the Giddy Bomb's explosion in order to stun the Godmother, at least on floor 90 you can actually manually stun it if the Giddy Bomb doesn't hit her. It's also not automatically a lethal attack. Avoid using stuns on this boss just in case somebody screws up with the Giddy Bomb and knocks it away from her instead of into her. Stun the Massive Burst, repeat killing these bombs a couple times, and you'll be on your way to floor 100. Now floor 91 plus has a ton of undead mobs, and you're definitely going to be tempted to use resolution commanders. Again, I highly recommend you save at least one of them for the floor 100 boss. That's if you're running with a group. If you're solo, I recommend you save all 3. As for the floor 100 boss, the floor 100 boss is Nibeth Obdilord. His attacks are fairly straightforward, and there's only one really big mechanic you're going to have to worry about here. Instead of having a cleave, Nibeth actually has an AoE around his current target called Abyss. So again, just don't all stack near the tank and you should be fine. He also has some line AoEs and a big cone AoE called Doom that you definitely don't want to get hit by. I don't need to explain to you what a Doom ability does at this point in the game. Now at 3 points in the fight, he is going to summon sets of adds, and this is where you need the resolution commanders for. The first set he'll usually summon between 85 and 87%, and he's just going to summon 2 adds on the north side of the room. Now these adds will keep reviving after they are killed, but remember, all of his adds are undead, and thus they take bonus damage from the Resolution Commanders. Now, not only does the Resolution Commander one-shot the adds, but if you hit their dead corpses with the Resolution Commander's AoE afterwards, it will permanently kill these adds from the fight, and they will not get the chance to resurrect. So you basically want to have them get hit once with the Resolution Commander to one-shot them, and then once more after they're dead to remove their corpses from the fight. At 65%, he summons 2 adds, and there's one on the east side and one on the west side of the room. It's basically the same as what you dealt with at 87%. If you only have one Resolution Commander and people's arm and armor values aren't that high, you can actually wait until this second set of adds before popping the Resolution Commander, and then you can deal with all 4 of the adds that you've had so far. At about 40%, he's gonna summon the final 3 adds, and these ones are all stacked in the middle of the room. Just remember, he's gonna use a Doom AoE pretty much right as he spawns these adds, so make sure not to get hit by that. But if you're good, you can actually hit all 3 of those adds before they get to do anything with the Resolution Commander's AoE. As for what the adds themselves actually do in case anything goes wrong, they can jump at you, they can shoot AoEs at you, they can throw catapult abilities at you. They're very deadly, especially at low armor value, so I highly recommend having the Resolution Commander and not having to deal with all 7 of these adds for the entirety of the fight. Once all the adds are gone and it's past 40%, it's really just tank and spank while dodging his AoEs. You shouldn't have any problems at all. Just like with floor 50, you get +1/+1 to your arm and armor after beating the floor 100 boss every time, as well as access to a new Orchestrion role from the Gilmore and Potsherd vendor. Now, I know a lot of people probably want me to go into floors 101 plus, and I'm actually going to make that its own video because that's its own set of nightmares that I don't think we can fit all into this video with everything else. All I'll say is that from floor 101 to 190, it will repeat the first 9 bosses that you encountered, minus the floor 50 boss, which is a little different, and floor 200, let's not talk about that right now. The mobs on floor 101 plus, they hit harder, there's more of them, there's more mimics, there's more traps on the ground, there's more everything that's bad. So just keep in mind, you're going to be dealing with chaos. Now, if you did floors 51 to 100 in a matched party, you also cannot access floors 101 plus. Floors 101 plus can only be done with a fixed party that you started on a prior floor. Most people will start their fixed parties on floor 51, run up through 100. And you'll also have to make sure that at no point the entire party dies. If you're solo and you die and it ejects you, that's considered a party KO. If you're with 4 people and all 4 people die, that's considered a party KO, not if 1 or 2 die. Floors 101 plus can only be accessed by the fixed party that has no party KOs. If at any point your full party wipes, you will have to start back from floor 51. And trust me, I will be reiterating this in my floor 101 plus video. I'm just letting you know now because I know there's going to be questions about that. Overall, I really enjoyed this set of Palace of the Dead. Once you have some Ether Pool arm and armor, especially if you save up +99 and don't spend it on a weapon, you will demolish floors 51 to 100, and just floor 51 to 60 is such good experience points for leveling a non-level 60 job. I highly recommend saving those up, leveling any jobs you want to do, and then buying your Kina weapon. There's plenty of ways to obtain I-255, I-260 weapons at this point anyway, so you probably don't actually need this thing, unless you're trying to collect them all. And that's going to be my overview and guide for floors 51 to 100, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share. And check out my solo video. I have soloed through floors 51 to 111. I died on 111 to something really stupid, so I am going to be attempting again to get to floors 130, 140, 150-ish solo. We'll see how that actually goes when we get there, though. Again, thank you for watching. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share. And until next time, guys, take care.